Hi everyone, my name is Karen and I wanted to start off by sharing my 14 and pregnant story. It's something really personal and it was kind of hard to make the whole video just because it's hard to kind of share everything that I went through at that time. It was a really hard time for me, but I just hope this video helps anyone going through the same thing that I went through. So it all started back in 8th grade. We were both in middle school, so we decided to get each other's number, and that's how we started actually going out. So we dated that whole year. And then that summer, we weren't really talking as much just because we didn't really see each other as much because we used to just see each other at school. So it was a little bit of distance, but then August came and then we were about to start like our freshman year, and then we were both wanting to try out for soccer. So then the whole school year started and we both were in soccer at that time. So after soccer, like practice, we were kind of just hang out, go walk into his house, and that's where it all went down. So we were kind of having issues at that time just because we're both just trying to do different things because it was our freshman year. So I did kind of start having a pain in my lower stomach, and I just thought it was because of soccer because they do make you run a lot, and I just thought it was something due to that. So I did decide to go to the teen health center. So basically at the teen health center, they do help you with any birth control you need, pregnancy test, and I don't know what else. Actually, I only went that time. So I do remember I went in and I started telling him my symptoms, and he basically just said, like, are you sexually active? So then I did tell him, so he decides to do a pregnancy test right away. So he comes back with the results. And oh my god, like, he puts the papers down and he just lets me know I am pregnant. I know. And so basically he tells me different options that I do have, like adoption or abortion, which was really hard because I was alone and I just didn't know how to react. So basically at that time I don't know what to do, so I go back to class. I just kind of started crying. I mean, what could I do, And a teacher just pulls me into a room and he's like, hey, are you okay? So I do let my teacher know because I just had to get it out. My teacher right away tells me that I need to tell my parents and my baby's father. So it was too much for me just to do it alone, to tell my parents. So I do just decide to tell my baby's father. But as I said, we were having issues. So I texted him and he didn't really respond. So after school, I tell him again and I show him the papers. But he kind of thinks I'm like lying because we're having issues, So So basically a few days go by and I am like, you know what? I need to tell my parents. So we were still kind of talking, So I decided to tell the security guard, which he was really nice, and I used to just tell him a lot of stuff, even when I was like having issues with my baby's father. So I do tell him, and he's like, well, let's tell your mom, So he basically tells me that me and my baby's father can't be in the room together telling my mom because it's like against the school law. I don't know, So it is just me and the security guard and my mom, which the security guard calls my mom and tells her, we need to talk to you, come to school. So when we go into that room, the security guard kind of just says it. He's like, hey, you know what? Your daughter is pregnant. My mom's face is like, she basically just didn't believe it either. She was just such in shock, it was really hard for her. She right away did start crying too. Like her face was so red and she just started crying. I felt so bad. I actually started crying myself as well. So she basically just kept it to herself though. She took me out of school. We left throughout the whole ride home. Like she didn't really say much. And I think it was a total of 3 days that passed by. And that's when she actually decided to tell my dad. I was in school at that time when she decided to tell my dad. So they did go to my school to pick me up. At that time, I was like, I'm gonna get a beating. My dad knows, because he never picks me up from school. So when they say your parents are here to pick you up, I was like... So we go home. And my brother does end up showing up at home as well. So they think at this point the best option for me would be to have an abortion. So that didn't even cross my mind at that time. I just really knew I wanted to keep my baby, and I was gonna do it, even if I had to do it alone, But abortion wasn't one of the things I considered at all. My parents do decide, though, to go and talk to my baby's father's parents, which we do go. They take me. He wasn't there. I guess he was like at soccer practice or something. So I do have to do it alone. He does show up at the end, though, but they basically just said it was my decision and my parents' decision. But at that time, my parents were just like, no, they're too small. Like, they can't raise a kid. I couldn't even work. So that was really hard, What was I going to provide? So at that time, I was receiving text from my sister as well, saying like, hey, like, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, you are gonna probably end up single and alone, and there was a lot of things crossing my head, and I don't know, I just decided that, you know what, I was gonna do it, even if I had to do it alone at the end. So I do decide to pack all my stuff, because my parents were so disappointed, they were devastated. I remember my brother not even talking to me for like a few months, up until my belly started growing. So I was just so sad. I was going through so much. I mean, my brother was such a close person to me, and to not have him talk to me, to not have him tell me what's wrong and what's right, it was really hard for me. So I do remember my parents were just so depressed and so sad. So I do decide to pack my stuff, and I'm like, I take it to school and I put it in my locker. So my second option was to go and live with my baby's father, I guess, because I really didn't have anywhere else to go. But my mom does end up showing up to school, because a girl didn't even drive herself. So she ends up picking me up from school, and we talk about it. We go home, we talk to my dad about it, and they basically start understanding it. But this was like a couple of days later. So a couple of months did go by. Remember, it was around November, December. Me and my brother actually started talking, and it was just really good, because I remember it was really depressing for my parents not seeing us talk. So around that time, my belly started growing really big. I do remember my parents let my baby's father move in with us while I was pregnant. So it was just really crazy. So basically, when he used to live with me, everything was going pretty okay, I ended up going into labor, and I ended up going like 3 weeks earlier, but we were still pretty ready for the baby. And I remember I started having contractions like a Wednesday, and I didn't deliver up until like a Sunday, so it was really crazy. I had like traumatizing labor. But basically, after I had my baby, I actually ended up getting like really bad postpartum depression. Like, I would go into the shower and I would just be crying. Like, my mom would have to go and take me out of the shower, because I would just want to stay there, because I was so sad. I mean, I really didn't have any friends to talk to. It was like a really depressing time for me. I couldn't lose the weight. It was just a really hard time for me to go through. So that was one of the issues with me and him, was that I was going through a really bad depression. And I don't think he really understood what I was going through. So we did start having problems, and we ended up breaking up, and he moved out by the time my baby was 3 months. So it was really, really hard. I actually started doing it all by myself. A bunch of other things went down. I mean, we were basically on and off for like a whole year. I mean, I tried moving in with him. It was a devastating time in my life. I mean, we just didn't get along. It was a toxic relationship. It was just not okay to keep raising a baby and through so much hate and anger. At that time, I did have a lot of like anger against him, because there was a lot of other things that went down throughout that period of time where we were trying to fix things, and it just wasn't gonna work out, you know. I always kind of knew, but I was just so scared. I was that I was so young, and how was I gonna raise my son by myself, and that nobody would love me anymore. So it was just so much, you know, and I guess I was just really dumb for thinking that way. But at that time, I just really thought I was never gonna find anyone. At that time, I think I was really young and insecure. My parents did help me out a lot through the whole situation. I mean, they helped me get through school, they helped me graduate on time, they helped me take care of Aiden, and they helped me when he was sick. So they do regret even thinking about abortion at that time. And now Aiden is like their biggest blessing to them, and he's my biggest blessing as well. He's my motivation. I'm basically really thankful for all of my family support. I mean, I wouldn't have done it without them. They helped me get out of this really dark place I was at in my life. I mean, it was really toxic for me to still continue to be there, and I just didn't see it at that time because I thought I was in love. So yeah, my son now is 7, and as I said, he is my biggest blessing. It's been truly amazing seeing him grow every day. Basically where I'm at is that I don't really have any custody agreements, you know. I do have my son all to myself, but it has basically been a really hard experience for me because I did have to grow up a little faster, you know, than all my other friends. I did have different experiences than all my friends while they were out partying and having fun. It was a little different for me because I did have to think about my son all the time. But it has made me a better person, and it has made me grow up a lot faster, and I actually wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for my son. I hope you guys like me sharing my story and it helps. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you for watching.